But stay tuned for the headlines. In Cameroon has gone effective this June 15. Individuals now pay 30,000 CFA francs in order to be screened against COVID-19, a decision seen by many as an executive imposing on the legislative. And then the decision by governments of the CEMAC sub-region to ban the exportation of raw timber from the Congo Basin has been applauded by experts who believe it is a measure which will go a long way to boost local transformation as well as the economy. With plans to improve his livelihood with the obtention of the Certificat d'études primaires CEP, that is the French equivalent of the first school living certificate, a 45-year-old man sitting for the examination says he is comfortable writing with children. Those were our headlines. Stay tuned for developments. Good evening once again. You're watching the 6 p.m. newscast on Canal D International. We begin with education. A 45-year-old man is sitting for the first school living certificate of the French equivalent, that is the Certificat d'études primaires. Age 45, he says he has no problem sitting for the examination. All he wants is to get the official document, which could help him improve his livelihood. You have the details with Omokosome from Yaoundé.
Sitting at the back bench of the examination hall in full concentration with notebook in hand, this 45-year-old candidate is patiently waiting for his passage in the oral phase of the CEP examination. Usman, a security guard working at the council, and needs this first official document, the Certificat d'études primaires CEP, to complete his file.
Security guard. I work at the council. I have my file, and now that I don't have CEP, I decided to come and write to complete it.
Though some write to use for job opportunities, others go in just to acquire knowledge that will enable them better interact in the society.
Personally, I think apart from work, when everyone speaks and you are asked to present a certificate but you don't have anything, at least you should be able to express yourself well.
Writing with children of 10 years to them is not an offense, as it is said, education has no age limit.
When I arrived at the examination hall, I met little children. I said to myself that this is shameful. But when I saw my age mates, and even those older, I became motivated. I said I wasn't alone.
The wish of most of these aging candidates is to further their education to their desired level.
And as the world observe World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, the population has been called to take upon the responsibility and take care of their aging parents and equally manage behavioral attitudes that come with age. Some medics in Douala have decried the poor attitude meted out on some aged persons by their children, especially internally displaced persons, most of whom suffer from trauma. You have more. Stephanie Chen.
In the company of their children, these elderly mothers are at the Presbyterian Health Center Acha in Douala for checkup. At a stage where they are aging, they depend on their offsprings for support, care, and love.
I'm so happy to be here to take care of Mama. I'm the last child, the 10th child of Mama. So we came here. Mama has BP and dislocation on her leg. So we are waiting for her lab results to be out.
Oh, if you know me, I don't die. If you know me, I don't die. If they would begin for him, but the one where they've been really care for me.
However, some youths are of the opinion that Africans should develop the Western culture by implementing units to ensure the well-being of the aging population.
The government should either create an institution where these elderly people can actually be with their mates. You don't actually see things with the same view of them. Like for instance, my own father usually is just angry at times for no reason.
Speaking with a doctor in Douala on the occasion of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, he decried how some youths abandon their aging relatives, some of whom are IDPs at the hospital.
Forgive me to use the word dump. They used to come and dump the parents somewhere, yes, claiming that they don't have enough resources to treat them. What exactly the internally displaced people is seriously a really tough issue, because when they are displaced, the care is, first of all, as a trauma and counseling issue.
At the Presbyterian Health Center, Acha, abandoned aging parents are not only offered medical care, but spiritual and psychological care as well.
We also specialize in trauma healing. So most of them go through trauma. So we pray with them, we counsel them.
Given the behavioral attitudes that come as a result of aging, medics have advised that youth must learn to take care of the aging population.
And now we talk COVID-19. The payments of the coronavirus test has gone effective in Cameroon this June 15 at the various sites at the Yaoundé National Public Health Laboratory. Over 100 persons answered present, paying the 30,000 CFA francs in order to be screened against COVID-19. And in the process, they paid the amount as stipulated by government. Hyacinth Chia visited the center and put together the following report.
They are here in a long queue to pay for their PCR COVID-19 tests. The kickoff of the 30,000 francs payment of the process here at the National Public Health Laboratory in Yaoundé, very effective this June 15. At our passage here by midday, a good number of travelers had been received for testing.
As we're speaking, we've had around 63 patients since morning. So we have 63 forms because we judged the number of people we received at the level of the National Public Health Lab. We judged the number of patients we received from the sample investigation forms that we have and the samples, because it's ideally the number of samples must correspond to the number of forms that we have.
Upon their arrival, they go through different stages.
The procedures and you see the environment, everything has changed because there are a lot of steps for doing the tests that have changed to be able to accommodate the payment system. And so when patients get here to the National Public Health Lab, first of all, we have the reception where the patient is being oriented, and then the patient gives us details of his or her travel. And from the details of the travel, we know best to how to handle the patient.
And to facilitate the online process for Cameroonians, health personnel of the COVID-19 Emergency Call Center are currently being drilled on the various steps and precautionary measures.
People are calling in order to know if, first of all, the message is true, because some think it was a fake news. So we were like to enlighten them that no, it's not a fake news, it's real. When you submit, you wait for an answer in order to verify your information. After validating your payment, that's when you can print out your receipt. And it is important to mention that if you don't have that receipt, you cannot have access to any lab.
The payment, as prescribed by the communique of Public Health Minister Manauda Malashi, is both physical and electronic.
And we still talk COVID-19, the decision taken by the Minister of Public Health, Malachi Manauda, a day before the tabling of the presidential ordinance amending the finance law, has been seen as many as imposing by the legislative over the executive. More on that with Beatrice Ngamo.
The ordinance is put in place in order to reflect on the changes the government, that is the executive, wants in a budget, like for this 2022 financial year. The National Assembly, that is the legislative, either accepts the ordinance as it is or rejects it. And as such, the call for the government to stop giving free COVID-19 tests for travelers have been the cry of some parliamentarians ever since COVID-19 became a pandemic here in the country.
That means that taxpayers, tomato sellers pay tax, their market stalls, and they collect that money to go and finance people who are traveling, who are supposed to have the means to pay 30,000 more to travel. Government spent billions of the taxpayers' money to finance these people who didn't need to be financed, and now they're correcting it, and that's a good thing.
The June 13th release by Public Health Minister Manauda Malashi announcing the payment of PCR screening tests against COVID-19 at the rate of 30,000 CFA francs beginning this Wednesday is enshrined in the Ordinance number 2022/1 of 2nd June 2022 to amend and supplement some provisions of the finance law tabled at the National Assembly for consideration.
And it is just obvious in the ordinance that is presented in front of the people's representatives that the Ministry of Health is going to have more revenue because they're going to generate revenue for the state through the payment of the PCR tests.
No need for polemics, according to the people's representative. It is normal for the minister to take regulatory measures to correct an injustice.
And that they present this to the National Assembly and tell the National Assembly, look, we're going to make 3 billion francs, we're going to make 300 million francs, whatever it takes, between now and the end of the year. So we need to change the budget and tell you guys that, well, we'll make a bit more money, maybe we'll spend it here, we'll spend it there.
Worth recalling here that the non-tax revenue projected at 226.2 billion is revenue expected from the sales of COVID-19 screening tests. Coming this late, when many countries are already lifting barrier measures, there is a fear it might not generate the expected revenue.
And with millions of cubic meters of unprocessed timber exported legally or illegally from the Congo Basin area, governments of the CEMAC zone have finally settled to implement the decision on the ban of wood exportation from the January 2023. The decision aims at encouraging local processing, create jobs, and boost the economies of the CEMAC sub-region has been commended by experts. You have more in the following report.
Decision to ban raw timber from Cameroon, Gabon, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Chad, and the Central African Republic from January 2023 is not only aimed at preserving the Congo Basin, but also to encourage local processing, promote and increase the demand for domestically produced products in order to increase the budgetary resources of the states.
This particular measure is very incentive. Why? Because it will help those working in that sector, in the wooden sector, to convert themselves from exportators of wooden, of wood to transformers of wood. When they would transform the wood locally, a cubic meter, when we transform it locally, we will add value, and therefore the government will collect more taxes. And also, most important is that we will give more job to people locally.
Those involved in wood processing believe it is a good action which might help them obtain high-grade wood henceforth.
The
wood we obtain from sawmills are of low grade because the good grades exported are expensive, and so we can't produce long-lasting furnitures. We are hoping that with the export ban, government will also take into consideration the local carpenters, create wood processing industries, employ some of them, and oblige the population to purchase the locally processed products.
We got to train our own Cameroon to be able to transform our raw materials, so that we should not be selling our raw materials abroad and then import it again once people have already transformed it and they are selling it very expensive to us. What I would invite actors in the wooden sector to do is just to invest in the technology. They can go to China, they can go to Singapore. All these countries who have really mastered the technology of transforming wood, they can go there, invest in the technology.
The implementation of the decision will certainly affect timber export companies, but the CEMAC Commission is reportedly planning to put in place a harmonized regional forestry tax system and take support measures for the companies affected.
We talk culture. The birth of twin, triplets or quadruplets in the Bamon culture is considered as supernatural or to an extent with mystical powers, as a reason why most of these births or those born have the rights in the Bamon shrine after birth. Most of the traditional rights, the traditional or the triplets are presented to the Sultan. In the following report, Maureen tells us more about the rights of triplets or quadruplets in the Bamon culture. Our report.
In the Bamon culture in the west region of Cameroon, twin birth, triplets, quadruplets, and even more, where are still considered to be events of extraordinary importance. Traditional beliefs gives twins, triplets, and more a special position. They are considered to be born with supernatural and mystical powers, with special names like Fifen, Fuapong, and many others that makes it easy to quickly identify twins in the Bamon community. G. Umaru is a traditionalist. He says the Bamon culture gives value and attention to twins. He recalls the history behind what he describes as extraordinary birth. In the days of our former sultans, the Bamon man had never dreamt of putting to birth twin babies. They attributed these to animals. Then came a day when a Bamon woman gave birth to twins, and the narrative changed. It was described as extraordinary. Whatever thing considered extraordinary is handed over to the Sultan. There is joy in the Bamon palace with special songs to welcome these triplets born a few days ago. Even us, the mother still struggles to catch her breath after giving birth to these triplets. Their destiny now lies in the hands of the Sultan of the Bamon Kingdom. The triplets are presented to the Sultan immediately after traditional rites are performed in the palace. As the people pray for more blessings through these special gifts, the triplets, the community remains united more than ever before.
What a great ceremony. And now we talk about the Nigerian defense advisor to Cameroon has been raised to the rank of the Knight of the National Order of Valor decoration. It recognizes his years of hard work by the minister delegates at the presidency of the Republic in charge of defense, Joseph Betty Asamoah. Umar Kusome has more on the celebration that took place in the nation's capital.
As from the date of signature of this decree, awarded the special medal of
decorated for his hard work, loyalty, great mastery of common issues, and his promptness in formal and informal exchanges.
Appreciate and confer on our defense advisor the Knight of the Order of Valor for his service to Cameroon in the last 3 years. This is highly appreciated because he had been here and he had contributed immensely to the deepening of the relationship between Nigeria and Cameroon, especially in the defense sector.
Medal placed on his chest by the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Betty Asamoah, who lauded his contribution to the reinforcement of Cameroon-Nigeria cooperation.
During his stay in Cameroon, Commodore Namdi Christiantus Ekum was personally involved in strengthening and expanding our bilateral military cooperation through his dynamism, commitment, and tenacity. He has made a remarkable contribution to building the capacities of the Cameroonian Defense Forces through training offers for Cameroonian military personnel in prestigious Nigerian military schools and academies.
Amiral Christiantos Namdi Ekum, Nigerian defense advisor, happy to receive this honorary recognition, says Cameroon and Nigeria doesn't only share a common border, but also shares cultural and historical loyalties, which has continued to shape their bilateral cooperation.
With that report, that we wrap up this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language on Canal. The international, the French edition will be yours at 7:50 p.m. with Eme Kateri Mokori. I will be yours same time tomorrow, God's willing. But stay tuned to programs on Canal the International. Bye-bye.